They messed with my parking spot. Huge mistake. The coffee was brewing, the sky was still a bruised purple hinting at dawn, and my keycard beeped me into the parking garage. Same routine every day. 6:15 a.m. Not because I loved my job, writing code for Thompson Tech was fine. It was the parking spot. I pulled into it, the familiar dip of the worn asphalt under my tires. The spot wasn't marked or assigned, but it was strategically located near the entrance closest to my office building. And admittedly, it was a bit wider than the others. My knee wasn't great, never had been, and that extra space made all the difference. For 2 years, it was my spot. No questions asked. No unspoken agreement. It just was until Chad arrived. Chad with the slicked back hair, the perfectly tailored suits, and the booming voice that carried across the entire office. Chad, the sales executive Mr. Thompson had personally recruited, promising game-changing revenue. Chad, who clearly thought the rules didn't apply to him. The first time he was in my spot, I assumed it was a mistake. I even felt a little bad for him, thinking he must be running late. I left a polite note on his windshield. Hey, just so you know, I usually park here. There's a slightly larger space, which is really helpful. Thanks. I found my note crumpled and tossed into the bushes the next day. And Chad's shiny new BMW was in my spot again. I waited for him by his car that afternoon. When he swaggered up, phone pressed to his ear, I tried to be reasonable. Hey Chad, about the parking spot. He cut me off, not even looking at me. Gotta run, buddy. Big deal closing, find another spot. He smirked, tossed his keys in the air, and sauntered inside. Find another spot. Easier said than done. The garage was a sardine can after 7 a.m. I'd end up parking halfway to the next county, adding a solid 15 minutes to my commute, and making my knee scream in protest. I swallowed my anger and went to Deborah in HR. I explained the situation, emphasizing the accessibility issue without explicitly stating my underlying problem, something I'd been avoiding for years. I showed her pictures of Chad's car consistently parked in the spot. Deborah, with her perpetually strained smile, sighed. Liam, I understand, but Chad is a valuable asset to the company. We need to keep him happy. Maybe you could just arrive a little earlier. I'm already here before 6:30, I said, trying to keep my voice level. What time does he get here? 5 a.m.? She gave me a sympathetic pat on the shoulder. I'll see what I can do. Of course, she did nothing. That's when the petty revenge began. The first few days were small things. I started leaving passive-aggressive notes on his windshield. Hope you had a great day. Chad, just a reminder, parking etiquette is a thing. Or is that a scratch on your bumper? Bummer, he clearly didn't care. He kept parking in the spot. So I escalated. One morning I found a can of bright pink spray chalk at a hardware store. I carefully outlined Chad's parking spot with a thick pink line, writing Chad's VIP parking, not really inside. It was childish, I knew, but the brief flash of satisfaction was worth it. He parked halfway over the line, scowling. I saw him kick at the chalk, but it was surprisingly durable. Then things got personal. I noticed Chad always left his windows slightly cracked, even when it was raining. I started strategically placing small, battery-operated fart machines under his car. They were motion-activated. The look on his face when he leaned into his BMW was priceless. Mark, a fellow programmer who sat next to me, was my only confidant. He'd cackle as I recounted my exploits. Dude, you're becoming a supervillain, he said one day, shaking his head, but a hilarious one. Chad retaliated. I came out one afternoon to find my tires deflated. Not completely flat, just enough to be annoying. I caught him smirking at me from across the parking lot. That was the turning point. It wasn't just about the parking spot anymore. It was about respect, or more accurately, the complete lack thereof. Brenda, my girlfriend, a lawyer, was becoming increasingly concerned. Liam, this is escalating. You need to be careful. He could press charges. He started it, I protested. Doesn't matter, she said, running a hand through her hair. Document everything. Every incident, every interaction. Get evidence. And stop with the fart machines, okay? That's just asking for trouble. I reluctantly agreed. I installed a dashcam in my car, hoping it would deter Chad's vandalism. I started keeping a detailed log of every incident, including dates, times, and descriptions. I decided to fight back in a way Chad wouldn't expect. I used my programming skills. I found out Chad always gave the same presentation to potential clients. I subtly altered a few of the numbers in his slides, making his projections look slightly less impressive. Nothing major, just enough to throw him off balance. I also discovered a backdoor into the company's internal paging system. I started using it to play snippets of embarrassing 80s power ballads whenever Chad was on a call. It was anonymous, untraceable, and incredibly disruptive. One day, Chad cornered me in the break room. "You think you're funny, huh, Liam?" He snarled, his face red. "Playing your little games?" I just shrugged. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb with me," he said, stepping closer. "I know it's you. You're going to regret this." I held my ground. "Is that a threat, Chad?" He just glared at me and stormed off. Brenda was right. It was escalating. Fast. I started looking into the rules of the parking garage managed by the HOA. It turned out Chad was violating several regulations, including parking over the line and unauthorized use of visitor spaces. I filed a formal complaint with the HOA. The representative, a stern woman named Mrs. Henderson, initially dismissed my concerns. "We're very busy, Mr. Miller. We don't have time to deal with parking disputes," but I persisted. I sent her photos of Chad's car, documented the violations, and pointed out the potential liability issues. Eventually, she agreed to investigate. Chad received a warning letter from the HOA. He was furious. I saw him crumple the letter and throw it on the ground near my car. The tension at work was palpable. People were taking sides. Some of my colleagues secretly applauded my efforts while others avoided me, afraid of getting caught in the crossfire. Mr. Thompson called me into his office. "Liam," he said, his voice strained. "I've heard rumblings about a conflict with Chad. I need you to put an end to it. It's bad for morale." "Chad is the one causing the problem," I said, trying to remain calm. "He's harassing me, vandalizing my car, and violating company policy." Mr. Thompson sighed. "I understand your concerns, Liam, but Chad is bringing in a lot of revenue. We can't afford to lose him. Just try to work things out." That was it. The company was openly prioritizing profit over ethics. I felt a surge of anger. Then one Friday night it happened. I was working late, trying to meet a deadline. When I finally left the office around 10 p.m., the parking garage was almost deserted. As I approached my car, I saw Chad standing there, leaning against his BMW. He was clearly drunk. Well, he slurred. "Look who it is, the little programmer." I kept my distance. "What do you want, Chad?" "I want you to stop," he said, his voice thick with anger. "Stop messing with me. Stop trying to ruin my life." "You ruined my parking spot," I said, my voice shaking. "Oh, boo-hoo," he sneered. "A parking spot, that's what this is all about. You're pathetic." He took a step towards me. "You know what? I'm going to teach you a lesson." He got into his car, started the engine, and revved it loudly. I instinctively backed away. Then he slammed the car into reverse and rammed into my car. The impact was sickening. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and my car lurched forward. I stared in disbelief. Chad just sat there, grinning. "How do you like that, you little?" He trailed off, unable to articulate his thoughts further. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "You just intentionally damaged my car," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "I have it all on video." He panicked. He threw the car into drive and sped away, leaving me standing there in the wreckage. I called the police, then Brenda. She arrived within minutes, her face pale with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked, hugging me tightly. He rammed my car," I said, still in shock. "I have it all on the dashcam." Brenda's eyes narrowed. "Okay, this changes everything." The police arrived and took a report. They dusted Chad's car for prints and confirmed he was the registered owner. The next morning, I went to the police station and filed charges against Chad for vandalism and reckless endangerment. Brenda contacted a lawyer friend who specialized in corporate law. We filed a formal complaint with Thompson Tech, demanding Chad's termination and compensation for the damages to my car. The company was forced to launch an investigation. Deborah from HR called me in for a meeting. "Liam, we're very concerned about this incident," she said, her voice unusually serious. "We're conducting a thorough investigation." "It's all on video," I said, raising an eyebrow. "What's there to investigate?" she stammered. "Well, we need to hear Chad's side of the story," I scoffed. "Are you serious? He intentionally rammed my car while drunk. What more do you need? We have to follow protocol," she insisted. I knew what that meant. They were going to try to sweep it under the rug. Brenda had anticipated this. She advised me to leak the dashcam footage and other evidence to a local news outlet. I hesitated. I didn't want to become a public spectacle. "Think about it, Liam," she said. "This isn't just about you and Chad anymore. It's about corporate accountability. It's about standing up to bullies. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." I decided to do it. The news story broke the next day. The dashcam footage was played repeatedly on local TV. The story went viral online. People were outraged. Thompson Tech was in damage control mode. Mr. Thompson issued a statement condemning Chad's behavior and promising a full investigation. Deborah was placed on administrative leave. Chad was suspended from his job. He lawyered up, claiming he was under duress and that Liam had been harassing him. but the evidence was overwhelming. Chad was eventually fired from Thompson Tech. The legal case against him was straightforward. He pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment and was sentenced to community service and ordered to pay restitution for the damages to my car. I also reached a settlement with Thompson Tech. They apologized for their inaction and agreed to implement stricter policies regarding workplace harassment. I had won, but the victory felt hollow. My reputation at Thompson Tech was tarnished. Some of my colleagues praised me for standing up to Chad, but others resented me for bringing negative attention to the company. Mr. Thompson avoided me. Deborah never returned my calls. The atmosphere was awkward. I started looking for a new job. A few months later, I landed a position at a smaller, more progressive tech company. The interview process was refreshing. They seemed genuinely interested in my skills and experience, not just my ability to generate revenue. On my first day, I arrived early, as always. The parking garage was clean and well lit. I drove around looking for the perfect spot. I found one near the entrance, a bit wider than the others. It wasn't marked or assigned. It was just there. I pulled into the spot and reached into my trunk. I unfolded a camping chair and placed it in the middle of the spot. It was a ridiculous thing to do, I knew, but I couldn't help myself. As I walked towards the office building, I noticed a coworker staring at the chair in the parking spot, a look of confusion and mild concern on his face. I didn't say anything. I just smiled slightly and kept walking. The past was the past, but the lessons I learned and the scars I carried were a permanent reminder of what happens when you mess with someone's parking spot.